Have Dr. Jagan Mohan or Jagan Mohan from SBV Puducherry I think you would have seen we had so much of physical posters over there near our college, in the college block. So hope this session will be enlightening you to how to make a engaging, very good poster presentation, because actually visual impact is very important to communicate with the people. Over to you, sir, Dr. Jagan.
So the art of making an engaging poster. This is an after lunch session. I hope I'll be able to do justice to it. Is this working? Okay. So we will briefly talk about posters, what is their role and how you can make it much more engaging. I can see a very young audience here, so this might come in use. So this is how a poster usually looks like. This is what you will receive in your mail when you are invited to make posters, or you get an opportunity to present posters. Now, I'm going to add value to it. I'm going to give you certain tips that comes from evidence based on scientific studies. Some of that you can take it home and make your own posters interesting. I'll try to make it as informal as possible. I might ask you certain questions as well. All right, this is how a poster usually looks like, isn't it? There's a title, authors and affiliations. Usually it's 3 columns, and then you put introduction, methods, results, conclusion, and some fine print, maybe references. This is how it looks. That's how all your posters are looking right now, isn't it or not? Now we'll go ahead and see what kind of changes, what kind of additions we can make to this to add value to it, to make it much more interesting. All right, I think I'll have to move nearer to move the slides. Okay. Now, the question is, why posters? How do scientists, how do doctors, how do people in academia, how people in science and engineering communicate stuff? They work on many things, they come up with many ideas, they discover things, they invent things, and they need to communicate this to the larger public. That's how we as humans grow, our society grows. Now, why do we need posters? Why not you stick to, I'm not sure if it's the first slide. This is in reverse. This is in reverse, right? The back one goes forward? Okay, all right. This pointer. Right. So posters are a good way for two-way communication. So I read about posters some time ago. History of posters. In 1975, at a conference of chemical engineers, was the first time when posters were introduced, because they couldn't accommodate all speakers. And then it became a huge success. Why and how? Somebody made a study. There's a nice study about it. It also deals with human relationships. Academicians or people in academia generally feel very shy to go up to a stranger and talk, even if to a speaker. They don't talk to speakers. For example, in the last session, we saw that we opened up the session for questions. How many of you asked questions? How many of you? None of you. We don't like asking questions. We don't like communicating. We want to be shy. We want to stay in the crowd. We don't want to stick our necks out. Isn't it or not? That is universal. So they found out, they followed some Romeos. Who did they follow? Louder. Romeos. So how do these Romeos strike up a conversation with the person of an opposite sex? Because it's very, very hard. Believe me, we all know it, isn't it? So, and then they studied them, they asked them, how do you do that? Share some tips with us. They said that they point to a neutral object or a thing, and they start the conversation from there. It makes easy for two people to connect. Usually they go to a girl, walking her dog, and they say, nice dog, what's the dog's name? You start a conversation. It's very easy, because the dog is there. It becomes an opening. This is real hard science. And then they try to adopt this principle to the art of science communication. That is how posters were born. So how do you communicate with a person? For example, I am a little hesitant to approach Dr. Mahalakshmi. If she has a poster in front of her, the poster becomes that object. That becomes a dog. That becomes the baby in the hand. That becomes a dress. That becomes the object from which we can start a communication. You all understand this? So that is the object of the poster. So you have something, both of you can talk about. So I go to her and tell her, this is a nice conclusion, but I don't agree with it. You start a conversation and then goes on. So it's that two-way communication. So posters allow for two-way communications. If you have a paper that you have published in a journal, it gets citations, it is read by many people, they don't usually, write to you. They can't engage in a two-way communication with you at the moment. They may want to write to you, ask questions, but the opportunity is very, very less. They forget it, they move on. So the posters allow everybody who has come to a conference to engage in a talk, get to know each other. A personal bond is formed, and that can take a lot of shapes. Okay. Now these posters are very unique at academia. Now the biggest mistake everybody does that they treat it like a paper. They take the whole paper, convert it into, from a portrait they'll convert it to landscape. Same material, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, 3 columns, my poster is done, put it up. So we'll see how it can be enhanced. That is okay, that is all right, that is acceptable, but we'll see. All right. Now my PowerPoint is a little mixed up. Now I would like to introduce to the concept of design thinking. This cannot be taught in a workshop. You will have to imbibe it. You have to look at other designs, and you have to come up with this concept called design thinking. Just take it in your head and go back home, read about it. There are a lot of things that they say. They have found out about academicians and their attitude to design thinking. Usually academicians don't have design thinking. Okay, design thinking is limited to the creative types, the poets, the musicians, and the artists, and we academicians don't like much of that. We think that they are too pretentious, show-offy kind of things. We don't want those things in our work. We don't want our journals to look flashy kind of thing. Is it or not? So academicians generally have a disdain for beautiful things. That's what they found. These are all scientific stuff. I have given the authors also. Now they think that if a poster or a presentation is too aesthetic, aesthetic, beautiful, it somehow is not good science. They want science to be boring. It has to be black and white, tables, lot of numbers, some graphs here and there, some obscure symbols. Oh, this is a good paper, looks very good. But that is changing nowadays. We are bringing in design. Now what we need to understand is that design is a process. It is not the end product. It is a process by which we make things. Right. Okay. So I am skipping to the very end. I am introducing you to how a good poster should look like in this age and time. This is how it should look like. Okay, because in many places posters are increasingly becoming digital. They are asking you to present posters on digital screens. So there's a lot of study that has gone in how to present stuff. The people in marketing, advertising have studied it. The science is perfect. Where to place stuff to get the attention, it is all there. We don't have to go into the science. Just understand that this is the best format for now. That means it is 3 column, unequal columns, and the middle column is very wide. That is where you put your important stuff. Okay. On the either side, put some non-important stuff. For example, you can start with your aims, objectives stuff here. The main findings go here. And then you can put your references here, the results, the tables if you wish. But the most important thing, where do you put it? Put it right in the middle. Nowadays, you have to add interactivity to this presentation. We are calling it the billboard style presentation. Mike Morrison was the first to introduce this, and it has become quite the standard in the West. Now add a QR code. This is not visible here nicely, but nowadays everybody asks you to add a QR code by which the viewers can download a full paper. Okay, they can not only download a full paper, there's a link to the bio. How many of you have Instagram? Raise up your hands. Okay, some of you. How many of you have Twitter, Facebook, stuff like that? Okay. Now, nowadays what is happening is that you put all your social media as well as links to your scientific papers, links to your presentations, links to your bio on your institutional page in a page called bio page that has a links to other things, right? That bio page you embed it here. In that bio page, after presentation, for follow-up, you can put the presentation in a full form there. What it does is, it does a lot of things. It helps people get in touch with you and continue the conversation. One of the most important thing is, it frees you up. It gives you freedom. What is the freedom? You don't have to put all the stuff that you have in your paper on this poster. Because you can allow them to download it later on. If they are very interested, download it. So you are opening up the barrier, you make the poster interesting. Now you are free from the burden of putting all the information here. Rather, you pick and choose the important ones that are going to be interesting, bring the eyeballs. Eyeballs is running this economy. How is Google free for you? Because it runs on advertisements. Advertisements depends on eyeballs. Okay. So we have to bring people in through the door and make the presentation interesting so that they take interest in it. I walk and see all the presentations. I'm going to stop at some presentation. Why? Something caught my sight, something picked my interest. So I'm going to stand there and then read about it. So we need to catch their interest. So you remove all the fluff, remove all the unimportant ones. Methodology usually is, nobody's interested. Everybody, is interested in the conclusions, results. So concise, make it concise, shorten it, put the details, and then send it over, send the person, if they want, to your web page. Now, accidentally I press this button. Look, this is a real presentation. This was one of the slides that were used in analyzing and communicating the risks for a particular type of tile they used in a spaceship. The shuttle Columbia, the rocket. Once upon a time, it went up. During re-entry, it burned up and everybody died. Okay. Why I am putting up this slide is sometimes the most significant findings are lost in a wall of text. Here is the most important text here. Flight condition is significantly outside of test database. Once the tile is penetrated, can cause significant damage. Okay, it was put on a slide, it was presented. The scientists who tested it knew about certain conditions where the tiles can fail. These tiles are put on the top of the Challenger, and actually one of the tile or few tiles failed and it caught fire and it went down. So this was the actual Boeing slide, 6th slide, 2003, and it had the material but nobody could take in. Why? Because there was a huge wall of text here. If this was presented, nobody would go beyond this title and maybe the first line, isn't it or not? Because there is a hierarchy. What will you read? You will read this. Existing SOFI on tile test data used to create crater was reviewed along with STS 87 Southwest research data, gone. Your attention span is filled up. You are going to sleep and no more. They haven't got to this line, important line. Okay, what would you do? What should you do? Move this important thing. That is a finding. You move it. This is what was done is announced here. So you take off all the fluff. You say here, if the tile is penetrated, SOFI can cause significant damage. What does the damage mean? The spaceship will blow up. Spectacularly, it will burst. That is what is important. So you put it up in the very top. Okay, we found this. Then everybody will sit up, take notice, do some kind of corrections. I don't know how it is working now. Now it is working in reverse. All right. Now we are in the age of the attention economy. All of you know it. Attention is premium. Attention, we can even spare money. If somebody asks me, a beggar, if I'm in a car and somebody is coming and knocking on my window, what will I do? I give them 10 rupees. For what? It may be because I feel sorry for them, but most of the time it is because I want to get rid of them. Go back to my Instagram or Twitter scrolling. This is truth. All of us do it, isn't it or not? We don't have time to finish off all our work and then do social media here and there. So our attention is much more valuable. Now in a conference, when people are walking around, they are thinking of many things. Where should I go today evening? What should I have for lunch? Whom should I meet? At that time, they are walking around where there are posters, and you will have to grab their attention. So you have to focus on how to grab the attention. We have to learn from advertising industry. They have already cracked the code. They have understood how human minds work. We are still primates. We have a primate brain. We also have a reptile brain, and all of this work, we have to capture it. So they have come up with certain frameworks. One of it is called AIDA. Go back home, Google it. If you have ChatGPT, you can ask, I have an idea, give me the AIDA framework breakup of it. It will give you how to capture it. First, it will tell you have a problem. You can solve it very easily. Here is a solution. That is a simple AIDA. Okay, I don't want to go to it in detail, but just find out. So you have to give them some awareness. You have to bring in interest into what you are trying to say, and force them into a decision so that they can take an action. Action is they have to follow up your study. They have to cite it, or they should be interested by it. They should be impressed by it. That is the action we want them to take. Okay. So this is just here for you to look at. So here my previous presenter also said this: look, read, listen, think. There are 4 things, and audience cannot do more than 2 of it. They can look at it, they can read it. You keep quiet. Or they can listen to you present and then think. Choose any 2. The next 2, the last 2 is what you have to aim at. When somebody has come to your presentation, you have put up a nice presentation, it's very visually attractive, very good, interest is there, somebody has come. What is the next thing you do? You become a marketer. You become a salesman. Then you start your pitch. Oh, you know what we have done? Don't tell them start with the methodology like the Boeing people did. You know, we took this, we took that, we did that. No, come straight to the result, and then think of yourself as a salesperson. What are you selling? You are selling yourself. I'm a professional. I have done a lot of work, very hard work. We have discovered something. This is important. I want to communicate to you. Pay attention. This is what is a result. And how it is going to affect you, what are the outcomes, how it will help you in your clinical life. Those are things that you are trying to sell. Okay. Sometimes in academia we think we are above salesmen. No, we are selling something else different. We are selling science. We should be proud of that. All right. Okay, now look at this poster. I'll give you a few minutes to take in. This is also a poster. Don't think that why no text here, it is not in a format different. But look at it. Have they communicated the idea? Is it interesting? Please go ahead and have, I'll give you 1 or 2 minutes. So the question this poster is trying to say, they have put up a question. Does the orchid mantis, there is a type of mantis called orchid mantis, deceive pollinators? Okay, immediately they have given the answer here. On just one graph. Okay, now this is interesting. If it is interesting, they will scan this and they will get the full paper. They will go into the methodology, what they asked, what is a null hypothesis, what are the materials used, what they did, everything is there in the detailed paper, provided you are interested. This is an actual poster, this is. Nowadays it is being called concise poster. Why? Because there is a principle called the principle of least effort. By a man in 1993, he wrote a book that all of us, like rivers, we take the easy path. We don't want to strain our brains. You put up a poster with 1,000 words, 5,000 words. Who has time, energy to read it? Will you read it? If I put 1,000 words on this slide, will you even look at it? No. We don't want to be taxed. That's human nature. So we will take the path of least resistance, least effort. So you make it easy for people to take in the stuff that you are trying to say. What are you trying to say? This is what you are trying to say. This actually mantises don't deceive pollinators. They actually attract even more pollinators, and they do a better job than flowers because they look like flowers. Okay. Anyway, this is some kind of zoology stuff. And here is a comparison. There is a flower, orchid mantis. It has attracted more. That's all. You are communicated. You are done. Interest is there. Everything is there. Why don't our posters look at like this? You know movie posters, right? Do you know how people do propaganda? Have you seen Nazi propaganda or anti-Nazi propaganda? They are all posters. Learn from the communists. What do? They have posters. They put up posters. If you want to convey something very serious, very strong, you want to affect people, you want to change the way people think, how do you do it? First posters, then movies. Everybody understood this. Even Goebbels, the father of propaganda, understood this during Nazi times. Okay, so that's the power of posters. We have to utilize the posters for the power that it gives. We don't do that. We treat it like another version of the paper. So this is the conceptions that I want to give to you, that take posters in a different way. Look at it in a different side, that it's an advertising material. There is something actually known as visual shock. If you put up too many things called walls of text, people don't read it. Good of times they don't read it. You have to prepare for examination. Examination is tomorrow. You can't read, right? Reading is hard actually. It's difficult for our brain to process text. It is. That is why it is easy to watch a video or hear somebody than reading. So if you put up walls of text, you are shocking them. Visual shock. They look at the whole poster, lot of text. Okay, understood. I'm not going to read any of this. I'll just talk a little bit and go. Now that is why this whole, if you look at social media everywhere, I don't know if people are on Reddit or not, too many times they'll ask TLDR. You know what it means? Too long, didn't read. And I don't have even time to type all that out. I'll just put TLDR. What are you trying to say, man? Concise. Make it, short. Give it to me in one word, few words. That's all. I don't have time for anything. So you search for it in Google. You'll find a lot. Now, visual shock makes people lose motivation to understand the diagram and they don't process it fully. These are scientific studies. Now, there's an opposite of that. If you put up a lot of text, they get visual shock and they don't go beyond that. And the opposite is shock them into attention. If you want to gain the attention, give them a small shock. A lot of studies have said that. People share unexpected or surprising content on social media. A poster was presented, 3 examples here, please pay attention. There was a poster at an actual scientific conference with blacked out content and the note explaining that the presenter could not attend because they had been denied a visa for some purpose. Okay. Now this is social consciousness. This was talked about many times, shared many times, because that was shocking. A poster with just black with one note. Presenter is not here because this country, this great country, denied him a visa. So people are asking, why should a scholar be stopped from coming into the country? What is wrong? He's not a terrorist. It became a huge movement. Another thing, there was a poster with a plunging in the title with the illustration of a bra. This is not something that we expect in scientific, a presentation. But it shocked them into noticing it. Why? What? Then they read it, and everybody went away with the message. There was one thing that said, like I told before, the nice picture of a cat, very cute picture of a cat, like the previous presenter had put up a nice, cute piglet. That was cute, isn't it, or not? So this presenter put up a cat and said, ask me about my cat, and by, while you are here, we will also discuss our study. Okay, these are some examples actually done, and it has been recorded in scientific literature about shocking into attention. Bring attention by giving a small shock. Don't go radical. These are all radical examples. Don't go by it, but think of it. Okay, there has to be something quite different that will attract their attention. Now, you have to elicit an emotional response. The posture, we should not look at it as an emotional one, devoid of any emotions, just text, some bland stuff. No, look at it as a medium to elicit. What do you elicit? What are we trying to elicit? Attention. It's an emotional response. I will be asking questions because I don't want you to sleep. And then you think in the very beginning, the posture, when I look at it, what do I feel? Okay, it has a lot of text, I read it, but how do I feel? Hopeful, happy, intrigued, interested? What is the feeling that it is trying to evoke? And work towards it. Is it shocking? Is it new? It is hopeful. This improves the response of a drug. Hopeful. Work backwards from that and build on that emotional response you are trying to elicit. Okay, and then people say that data should talk for you. Just put the data, people understand. No, they don't. You have to interpret it from them. Put it in a short word, 2 or 3 words. Actually, posters have a lot of leeway. They have a lot of independence. You can do whatever you want posters. You can't do that with your scientific papers. They will reject it. You can't send a scientific paper which doesn't have these things, headlines in these words, this limit. But posters, on the other hand, are quite flexible. Take advantage of that flexibility. It's a flexible medium. And then think about what is your goal. Are you trying to inform? Are you trying to suggest something? And work from there. Now, you know very well that how much time will a person who has come to see your poster spend with you? Not more than 5 minutes. Scientific study here. How long do you want to spend talking to a presenter at a conference poster? 1 to 5, maximum people. Nobody goes beyond 5. So that means you have to be prepared. Now you have a poster, you put it up. Now you have to be prepared to talk about it for 5 minutes, not more than 5 minutes. Concisely explain everything within 5 minutes. Don't start with, sir, our aim of this study is to do this, and then this is how we thought, then this is our hypothesis, and this is how we went. The person will already be thinking of his lunch or coffee or whatever. I have told this before. So be prepared to finish explaining the poster in your own words within 5 minutes, but don't stretch it to the 5th minute. 1, 2, 3 minutes, done. You should be able to explain your poster. Now, nobody uses photographs very much. Now, here is an example. This scientist, she has discovered a new species. Here it is in her hand. Usually what they do, they'll slap it on the lab floor, take one photo from the top, describe its morphology. This species has a head like this, torso attached to the body, things like that. But instead, she engaged a professional photographer, went to the beach. This is a marine animal, presumably. So she's gone to the beach, and like we take Instagram photos, what do people do? They go to the beaches and take Insta, right? Models. Now we are scientists. Why shouldn't we do that? Okay, let's also take beach photographs. She has gone to the beach photograph. She's wearing a white coat. No problem. Nobody is going to object. And she has taken it different poses. Okay. Actually, nobody bothers about this new species otherwise. But this was interesting. And paper was read, and it had a lot of citations. You understand what is the end point? She got her discovery through. Now, everybody knows about her. She is called Kelsey Routledge. And people from Puducherry in one corner, somewhere here in AVMC, we know about her. She is pretty as well, and that helps. So, she was saying that I think it is important to show that taxonomy can also be fun, and so and so, so and so. And then they found out that you work with illustrators, work with the creative types, photographers, they can bring in a different angle than we think. We don't think about these things. What we will do in pathology, we will put a slide. We will take photograph, we will put it. A photographer will be able to enhance it. We will, look at the angles that the photographer has come up with. Okay, back to the camera and like a pet, like a dog or something, it is sitting there by the side. So look at this. These angles, can you think? Can you think? We won't think. Okay, a photographer has thought, and it has come out nicely. So use photographs liberally. Don't worry about much. Put them in your presentations. Look at the photographs from an artistic point of view. Okay, think about these lines. If you can't do it, get your friend to do it. Sister, somebody must be there who has a better eye than we do. Especially males. Okay, get a female view on it. Creative type stuff like that. Now I am going to skip a lot of things. I am going to skip on this title. Please, I don't have time. But title is the most important one. So they say a lot of studies, they say that, people read only the title. That's it. They don't go beyond the title. People do not read content beyond a headline. 1963 itself it was noticed. Again 2015 and again in 2018. These are scientific studies. What it is nobody reads anything beyond the title, Baba. So why bother so much about the rest? Focus on the title first. So there are a lot of studies, a lot of things I would like to say, but I don't have time. Now, for example, just an example I will give you. This is an actual title. Somebody has compared a rattlesnake. How does it stack? How does it go after two of its prey? One is a mice, another is squirrel. And they wrote this. They put the mice, mus musculus in Latin, ground squirrels. Yeah, can't read this. Can you read this? No. And then somebody came in, editor type, and told that let's reduce all this. Let's remove everything. Come straight to the point. Rattlesnakes ambush field mice, but they don't ambush field mice, squirrels. They stack them. That means they go behind them. Okay, that's all. Very concise, short. The title has conveyed everything that the person needs to know. Pay attention to it, shorten it, don't put scientific words, remove it. Even though you are talking to people within your specialty, think of them as common people. Okay, then your title will become de-scientified, it will be made better. And then add superlatives, highest, best, all those things if it applies. But don't make it clever. Don't put puns in it. Nobody likes it. Okay, that's what. Now, and then make multiple headlines and choose from them. Don't just make one headline and be happy with it. That's a mistake everybody does. All we do is we come up with one headline and we think that is the best in the world. No, it is not. The advertisers, best people, what they do, they come up with a lot of variations and then they choose one of it. Nowadays, you have AI to help you. You input a headline, ask the AI to make combinations of it, make variations, and then you pick one of it. All right. And then when you are actually going for presentations, don't forget to read the instructions, width and the height. Otherwise, this is what will happen. Okay. This is the actual photograph from presentations. They mistook the width for the height and stuff like that. This will be the result. Now, I will come to the next part of it. Narrative thinking, that means how are you going to tell a story? My previous speaker also talked about storytelling. We are all storytelling. That is why we are primates, we are human beings. Why? Because we are good at telling stories. If we tell short anecdotes, stories, it makes everything interesting. So the poster also should say a story, should narrate a story. Your scientific study might be dry. Okay, still you should find ways to make it interesting and make a story. So there are a lot of studies, I don't go for that. I will just show you an example. Somebody scanned a dead fish. What did they do? What did they do? They subjected a fish to MRI. They had a MRI machine, probably they didn't know what to do on a Saturday morning. No patience. They put a fish and scanned it. Actually, not so. It is a functional MRI. That means it can locate areas which are lit up, okay, which are active, usually used for brain scans. You take a psychopath, put him in a seat, actively MRI is going on, you ask some questions for a psychopath. Do you feel any empathy? You see which part of the brain blows up. Normal people, some parts will grow up. Or you ask them to read 2 or 3 texts in different languages. We can spot which areas of the brain are getting activated on language, all these things. You know that, right? We use it for a lot of studies. In psychology, it's extensively used. So one brilliant person thought he would bring a fish and put it and see what happens. And you have the fish in the hand means it's already dead, isn't it or not? Because this is not happening underwater. So in the dead fish, parts of the brain lit up. If it had been us, we would have laughed it and gone off. But they made a story out of it. Actually, they wanted, in another paper, to say that functional MRI has false alarms. That means sometimes gives nonsense, sometimes gives false information. We have to either increase study size, or you have to compare it, you have to do some kind of statistical adjustment to account for this mistakes that fMRI can do, functional MRI can do. Okay, we all know it. Sometimes false positives creep in. We have to account for it. So to demonstrate it, he would have done a dry study and said that actually there are some false examples, things like that. But actually they used the actual fish scanning. This is a fish, dead fish, okay, salmon, I think. This salmon, they put the salmon and they put the actual picture and use this to drive home the message. What is the message? There can be false positives in functional MRI. If they had just told that, this paper would not have been famous and we wouldn't be discussing it. This is called the dead salmon test. You go it, you look at it, this is still available. So this says that actually Bennett and colleagues wanted to show the common statistical problems in the field of brain scanning, functional MRI, that could lead to false alarms. So they just did this. So because of that, if they would have been anywhere else, the salmon would have been just a curious anecdote. But now they had a story and this paper became very famous. Okay, so tell a story. Narration is very important. If it is a patient, tell the story of the patient, if it's a case study. Now, I want to give you just one small thing. I could also play the video here. There is a structure, okay, in human language, there are ways to convey things. Powerful orators use this. They have a formula, how to rile up the audience. Stand-up comedians have a structure. All of us know that, right? We respond very well to stand-up comedians because, you know, they tell this, that, whatever you don't expect they say. They usually have husband-wife kind of jokes. These are all things that we laugh at. You know, these are nice to laugh at. Similarly, for scientific communications also, we need to adopt some of that. We need to steal. One of the things that have been studied for scientific communications is the structure of and, but, therefore. So you construct your title or anything in this format, that you add two things, you contrast it saying but, and then you come up with a explanation or conclusion. So this format is called and, but, therefore. Okay. So here is a scientific study that says that a powerful tool for creating a concise narrative is a single sentence containing 3 words and, but, thereafter. You can have variations. You can say instead of but, if not, that kind of ways, but this is how it is. So there is a song, very famous song, okay. Hey, I just met you and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. How many of you heard about this song? Nice song, isn't it? It's there on YouTube. Yeah, you would have heard. I can play it, but we don't have time. So this has a structure. It has and, but, therefore. Here is a Star Wars, entire Star Wars movie concisely narrated. An empire has enslaved the entire galaxy, and that empire, evil empire, is building an ultimate weapon that can, liquefy whole planets. You know the story. But there are some rebels, and heroic rebels have stolen the weapon's plans. They know its weakest spot. You know what happens, right? Skywalker and things like that. Therefore, there is hope. There is a story with a lot of hope. There is a hopelessness before, that there is a huge weapon, and then there are rebels. It makes for a good story, isn't it? That is why we love Star Wars kind of movie. Every movie has this. There's a villain, he has done atrocious thing, and then the hero comes from somewhere, and the day is done. That kind of thing. So here is how the same salmon study that we saw just before is concisely narrated with the and, but, therefore. We scanned the brain of a dead salmon and saw what looked like a brain activity. But this was obviously impossible because the salmon is dead. So must be a false alarm. Therefore, we should correct for multiple comparisons to reduce a chance of spurious conclusions. Okay. So this is a structure. Go home and look up on this structure. You will have a lot of examples on how to restructure your own narrative to have this and, but, therefore. Now here is another real scientific narration. Lead pollution is consistently linked to cognitive and behavioral impairments. Yet, that is another word for but. Little is known about the benefits of public health interventions for children exposed to lead. This is from poster, mind you. Therefore, this paper estimates the long-term impacts of early life interventions, let's say lead remediation, nutritional assessment, medical evaluation so far recommended for lead poisoned children. This is how you have to structure it. Okay. So it puts everything concisely, say gives you 2 things, and there's a result. Now, one of the most important skills that you have to develop is called visual thinking. How to present ideas and things using images, variety of images, graphs, charts, diagrams, illustrations, tables, whatnot. Because science has proved that ideas without images are forgotten, okay, from a paper. Now, what is the goal of visual thinking is to reduce complex material and bring it to understandable level by making it visible. How do you make it? I want to hear the word. Visible, not simple. Okay? Don't dumb it down. Don't make it baby kind of thing. Don't do that. We respect that all our colleagues are perfectly capable of understanding stuff. You don't have to put it in simple words like baby. No. Make it visible. Visibility is in terms of charts or interpreted diagrams. That's what we have to do. Now, here is a sentence. Please read it. A simple sentence. This is usual. If the hypothesis is correct, then the measurements of the treated group will be significantly higher than the control group. Usually we use it in medicine, right? We use two arms. We have a control group and we have treated group. We will say that this treatment is better, so it should be, something should be better or lower than the control group. Now, if I write this, you have read it. Instead, I present it this way. This is visual. Very simple example just I want to use. So, here is a test group, here is a control group, and something is higher in the test group than in the control group. That is a prediction. Okay. Now, compare these two. This is verbal thinking, this is visual thinking. Which is more impactful? Obviously, the visual is easier, you understand it, and you can also see how much better. You can see more than half, isn't it or not? So, it gives a lot of ideas about this. Now, similarly, some of the mistakes that we do in our postures is that we don't follow visual hierarchy. There is something called a visual hierarchy because sometimes we unconsciously read text and we take away key ideas from how the text is structured. Is it bold? Is it top? Is it the title? Why? I told you earlier, 90% of people don't go beyond titles. I told you that, right? So, where should you focus most on? On the title or on a central image. So, this is a nice visual hierarchy. It shows clearly this is a title, there is a heading, there is a subheading, then there is text. If you see here, this is confusing. The subheading is a little larger. So, people, what will they do? They will read the subheading. Will anybody read the title? They will miss the title. You might have come up with a nice title, but you have to put it in such a way that it is visible. Right, middle and square, they call it, right? It is right there, is in the middle of stuff and is squarely where your visual focus is on. So, this is better. Put it up front and make it very clear that nobody can miss it. Can anybody miss this title? Nobody can miss it. So, make it in such a way that they cannot miss it. Right. Please go ahead, read this. What did you read first? You read this first, right? Then you read this second, third, and then you went to this. So, arrange your posture in such a way that you put the most important information you are trying to convey where? Right in this place. This is a visual thing that people will read first. It's large, it's contrast, color contrast, and it captures your idea. Then you put other things below and maybe some things in the very top. Now, I don't have much time. Now, another concept has come. If you want to retain the entire title, your title might be very long, this long. It has everything. The population is there, how the study was done. That formula, everything is there. That is how they have taught us. Okay, everything you should contain. What is the comparator and what you are comparing with, what was the outcome, in which population, in what context, everything. You put everything. That itself will be like 3 lines, 4 lines. If you want, you retain it. Where? You put it on the top. Then you reduce all that and the conclusion you reduce it and put it here. You confuse them that this is actually the title. It is not the title. This one will be the title. You understand? The title as per the dictators of science that says that you have to have everything in the title, put it there. No problem. But put it somewhere here. Put it here because this will attract them. They will come to you. They will see your posture and they will adjudge you or they will take interest in you. Now, this is an example. Nowadays, people are also using something called the comics format. So, this is how it looks. So, you put a panel of images that you can go from left to right, line by like you read a comic. This is also becoming de jure and it is now creeping into hard sciences like medicine also. So, if you want to convey something in psychology and things like that, you can explore. I am just widening the ways you can create your posters. Don't think of posters as only 3 columns are full of text. Okay, comic format is also now acceptable. It is becoming socially acceptable. Or look at this. I showed you in the very beginning how a nice poster should look. Here, it looks clear. Okay, you have the title is very concise. There are more larval tapeworms in sand crabs compared to mole crabs. Is it clear or not? It's not. Its ambiguity is not there. It's very clear. You have these 2 pictures of this sand crab and a mole crab, and there's a nice graph. which exactly says what it is, and all the usual stuff is here. Now person will walk up and see. I want to see what the crab looks like. It's not very clear. Sand crab looks very interesting. I will walk to that poster, isn't it or not? So this is how it should be yours. So make it in this format. Now if you see here, it is not only columns, you also have rows. This is first row. Can you see this box I'm drawing? First row, second row, third row. So there are 3 rows, 3 columns, and this is how it should look. Now there's a very famous paper that talks about how data can be misleading, that is quantitative data that we do and then analysis we do based on standard deviations, the mean, the mode. It's called Anscombe's quartet. You can look it up. It is there everywhere. All this looks similar. If you look at a standard deviation, you can't calculate. So if you look at the standard deviation, mean, median, all those things, all these rows A, B, C, D are all very, 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 very similar. Okay, not much variations if you just look at the numbers. However, if you plot them, they look completely different. Okay, here is the x axis, this is y axis. Okay, now this is how they look. Can you see the pattern here? There's a nice pattern here that goes up. As you go up, here it is a little distributed, but there is an axis here, and then there is a nice curve here, and it's all here. There is a pattern. Now, what we are trying to say is numbers really don't convey the whole picture, while images can, graphs can. So you select what best conveys it. This won't be a workshop on what is the appropriate chart to choose for your data. That's for another time, but you have to choose the best out of it. Now increasingly, consider using infographics. This is an infographic for the same chart. Usually we would use this, like this is like a stacked bar chart. However, this is okay, this is fine, nothing wrong with it. This is very good. It shows everything. How many PhDs in which fields? Life sciences has the most, and there are a little, equal males and female. In engineering, there is a predominance of males over females. It shows, it conveys everything, it's fine. On the other hand, you can also explore, since it is a poster, you can consider using infographics. Here is females, here is males, same information conveyed in a different format with a large text here and a small graph to accompany it. It looks more interesting, is it or not? So please consider, nobody is going to come up and tell you not to use it. I don't have time right now, but colors is a whole science to itself. What colors convey, colors can convey a lot of things, important stuff like that. In scientific communication, we have to pay attention to colors. Why? Because you can use it to convey subtle things. Look at here. This is a trend line, this is a variation kind of graph. So these two things convey two different stuff. Here it says the trend is emphasized here with the red line. All these dots have a central trend. Can you see the trend? As the x-axis grows, so does the y-axis. There is a correlation between x and y, and there is a clear trend here. Can you see that? On the other hand, here it shows that the dots are far and near the line. Some of them are on the line. Some of them, let's say this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are actually touching the line, while equal number of dots are away from the line. That also is message is conveyed here. Okay, if you want to emphasize on the variation, there is a variation here, not everything falls on the line, then you put a dotted line, make it mild to emphasize on the spacing between the dots. This is the same dots, there is no difference, but what is emphasized here? The unity is emphasized, the pattern is emphasized. You understand? So by using subtle colors, you can change the message itself. This is an example. Now when you combine colors, you have to think about what colors to combine. There are something called complementary colors. Okay, if you use them properly, you can make this orange stand out. How? By having a complementary color behind it. This is what we use. Even if you see, look at AVMC everywhere, there will be a background and there will be a white text. So contrast the text stands out very clearly. So use these complementary colors to highlight text, highlight stuff. If you have a headline, black on white is a standard, but think of having a background on which there is a lighter text. It will help it stand out. So you have to understand, there is no time for this. Please go home, do your own study. This is a good thing to know about primary colors, what are secondary colors, and how to combine them, what is the relationship between them. Okay, there are also these kind of color cycles that artists look. They come up with a palette of colors to use for branding, for websites, for the imagery, things like that. They use it. We don't. We never even think of colors. But start thinking about colors in your posters. Why? Posters should not be black and white. It should be colorful. Think about using all these colors and how to pair them. If all of the same thing you want to emphasize, use these analogous colors that are next to each other. If you want to stress upon the difference, use opposite colors, things like that. So double complements, please experiment with it. Now, I'm going to come to the end, that nowadays posters are not 2D anymore. Okay, they need not be 2D anymore. Initially, people started experimenting on posters by putting up extra structures on them. They will stick some papers on them that you can move the paper to look something below that. Things like that. Some books, children's book, if you open them, the art pops out. Such kind of things have been used in posters as well. You can use them. You can use it to emphasize different layers in anatomy, for example, structures. You have to think creatively and you can come up with certain things. You can use a different variety of materials also. People have used fabric, they have used silks, they have used cotton, they have used multiple things to do it. For your PG level of thing, that will be very good. It may be not suitable for a very high level of European conference on gastroenterology. It may not look good, but although if it is needed, you can use these materials to emphasize, okay, to show differences. Now people are starting to use these kind of things. Here is a paper, diverse morphology in the forewings of flapping rays. That fish, instead of a 2D, they have come up with a 3D thing. Okay, so you wear a glass and you look at it, you can look at it in a 3D way. Okay, a lot of interest. People will be interested. They will come just to wear that glass and see. And if there is somebody else standing there, they see some kind of people wearing some glasses and seeing some stuff. What will they do? They will make a beeline to your stall, your posture. Okay, make it interesting. It is all possible. It's not too hard to get stuff like this or design like this. You just have to separate blue and yellow. In a childhood, we used to see this 3D stuff, comic books, right? You can use it. If your posture requires it. You shouldn't force this onto posters which have no role. But of course, here she is trying to show something, diverse morphology. So obviously it works. And you can see her putting a hand and look at her mouth. Wow. So this is a reaction that you should try to elicit. I'm trying to say that there are all kinds of possibilities if you try to widen your vision, okay, for postures. And some people have come up with all kind of inventive stuff. Some people gave up some space here for people to write feedback. Now this gives positive feedback. If you look at all this feedback, what do you think? This poster is really popular, isn't it? It has won popularity and so many people have given feedback, right? So if you are a student and you show a poster at the end of the day like this to your seniors, they will be happy about it. That you got a lot of visitors and they have left some feedback. So this is how people are also doing. There's a pen here. Can you see that? There's a magnetic stand and pen. So think about new ways of presenting your findings, not the old ones. All right. Now we'll come to the last part. This is a part that I love because I love fonts. Is about typography. Pay attention to the fonts that you use. Can you see these two fonts? I will always find you. If you get lost, a parent can tell your child, wherever you are, I will come find you. This is parental. How about this? How is that? Specifically for girls. What will happen if you find this in your mirror one day? Not so good, isn't it? It looks like somebody is stalking you. Somebody who doesn't wish you well, isn't it? That's what is conveyed here. So the fonts can convey emotions. Fonts can convey a lot of things. If you look at the branding of good companies, okay, or if I show you, I don't have example, I should have brought. If I show you 5 newsletters or samples, based on the font, you can judge a company if it is a multinational company or it's a local company. Have you all noticed, if you look at a tea stall, even in India especially, or tea stall at a local place, they will have the biggest board. Biggest, this big it will be there. The name of the shop will be full, no space around. As if you give some space, you will lose some money, they will fill it with their name. If you go to Bank of America, for example, how their board will be, or some other big, billion-dollar company, they will have a small brass plate, this big, E large, wide, fixed to the side of the building. Is it or not? So that is about image. What are we trying to convey? Class. What are we trying to convey? The standard. How do you convey it? You use fonts carefully. So you have to be aware that there are 2 types of fonts, serif and sans serif. Actually, the line that you put here on the end of those T and the below and those stuff are called serif, okay, in French. Small hangouts. And there are some fonts which don't have the lines. This doesn't have a line. You don't see the lines here. Here, all of them have lines. So these convey different stuff. If you are going to write a legal paper, if you are sending a notice to somebody, why did you take my pen? I'm going to show you in court. You might use one of these, Times New Roman. Serious, speaks, it means business. On the other hand, if you want to be elegant, you want to be seen driving a Mercedes-Benz kind of thing, you'd use one of these. You'd use this in Auto Sans, for example. Looks very elegant, right? Geometrical, actually it is. It has a lot of turns. It has a lot of smooth curves. It's sophisticated, okay? So, fonts can lend an air of sophistication, beauty to whatever you do. Choose them carefully, okay? Make it your own. Use them in your work. Makes a lot of difference. There are some that combine both Noto Sans and looks like handwritten, Kelowna Sans, beautiful. These are all very easily available. You can get it many places. This is an actual paper. Okay, this is an actual one. I want to talk about Comic Sans. All of you know Comic Sans, right? People think they are being very sophisticated if you use Comic Sans as they were written. It's actually the reverse. A lot of problems with Comic Sans, don't use it, never use that because it's never scientific. On the other hand, this is, Higgs boson God particle, right? Our great boss predicted it way before, long back, and only recently in 2000, 12 or something like that, they actually found evidence for that Higgs and boson model. They found that particle, the giant collider at CERN, Switzerland. What is it called? Grand Haldane Collider of particles. They found that particle, isn't it? And how did they announce it? It's one of the greatest discoveries in physics. Okay, the standard model of physics was confirmed by the discovery of Higgs model. 50 years, for the past 50 years in physics, there has never been a discovery by it. It's huge, it has a lot of implications, but how did they announce it? This was a slide that was used, actual slide, for announcing the discovery of one of the greatest discoveries in science, in physics, humanity. This was what? Okay, they used Comic Sans. Idea is, they can get away with this because it's such a big discovery. Unless your discovery matches the standard of Higgs boson discovery, don't use Comic Sans. On the other hand, if you discover something like this, end for cancer and stuff like that, please, you use Comic Sans so that it becomes famous. Okay, like this slide. Otherwise, never use it. Use a better, font, and don't use. This is a bad example of a poster. Okay, it has everything wrong about it. How it is placed. Look at the spacing between this. Can you look? Can you see? The color in the outline, background is olive green, and nothing is correct and nothing is matched, nothing is arranged. If you look at the spacing, how it's a nightmare for artists. You show it to somebody of a creative type, they might vomit. Okay, never mind. It is announcing the greatest discovery. Never mind. But visually is not good. We have to mind all these things. We have to put things in a way. So, if you have a poster, how should you display it? Now, all of you know about eye contact, right? You have to match the dimensions with how closely or far away the people will be standing. Accordingly, you have to determine the font size. If you cross 40, you have presbyopia, and myopia is a common problem. People can't read fine text. Keep that in mind. Most of the times, young people, don't worry about text. They will use 10-point font. And we, the middle age or older age, we can't read. And we won't read it anyways, but mind it. And mind everywhere, this is high level, and that is where you have to put the most important stuff. And it need not be the title, because titles can be too long. Condense it, put it. Be aware, what is the length, breadth, where they are going to stand, what is the width of it, and where you have to put which stuff. Make sure that you pay attention to that. This slide tries to convey that. Again, the billboard model, billboards are used for advertising, big billboards, right? They say that you divide it to half and you have a hot zone where you put very important stuff, and then you combine it diagonally. This is diagonal, okay? Diagonally down. You divide the quadrant. This is a top quadrant, bottom left quadrant, top right, bottom right, okay? Here you put take-home messages so that they can remember something. When they go home, they will keep it in mind about your poster. So this is how you have to do it. Put the fine print in the bottom. This is drastically different from the model that I showed earlier. Consider this also for certain things. Now, nobody reads anything in this dead zone. That is what they have found based on billboards. Okay, they put this billboards on a highway, and at the end of the highway, they ask questionnaires based on the material that was present here. More than 80% of people could reclaim what was present here, and majority of people couldn't reclaim what was here. Okay, that's how they made this study. Right now, you have to think of grids
interesting and powerful. Is one way you put all the stuff, another one half you use it for your images, like I said, nice photographs, put them here, make it interesting, eye-catching, put all the graphs at the bottom, and once it's be used for your authors, who are authors, affiliation of authors, designation of authors, references and stuff like that.
Now, we are coming to the very end of the presentation. We'll talk about authors. Most of the time we put them like this. Or if we have, if we make a little bit of effort, we will divide them into the primary set of people and secondary set of people, the statisticians and others whose names actually shouldn't be on the poster, but we still put them, all those things this way. But what is the best is, remove all the names, and this is now the best. Sorry, it is in the very bottom. You put the name of the presenter, poster presenter, and maybe the principal investigator is different from the poster presenter, put them here, and then QR code or a link to the full author list, okay, provided you have more than 2 or 3 authors.
If you have just 3 or maximum 4 authors, no problem, we put them. If you have more than 3 or 4 authors, reduce it. The presenter is important because the person who is standing in front of you doesn't know your name, and if you are asking doctor, instead of using your name, they will look it up. Of course, we have to give due, we have to acknowledge the contribution of the principal investigator, put that as the name. But everything else can be for later. That means reduce the stock. Now, this is a nice poster which has won award. Okay, look, this is a title, long title. Okay, what they have done, they have taken a long title and they have made one more title. Actually, this is not a real title, it's a pseudo title. Like I told you, you reduce it. He is low, healthy and dangerous. Very simple, isn't it? It's asking a question, you are interested, help us here, a possible paradoxical association between low report, early cholesterol and metabolic dysfunction patients and relation to major adverse outcomes. So this is how it looks. It won award. Why? This is quite attractive. And this is just an example of what I put for you to look at how our medical posters should look. Okay, there are pages here and there are some tables and stuff also here. Now, the very last towards the end, nowadays posters are a way to gain followers, or social media is a huge part. Even in a scientific paper, when you are looking at metrics, you also put social media.
Metrics, right? How many times this has been cited or quoted or referenced in Twitter? There's a metrics for that. That is becoming more and more important. So you put it up, you tell them that you are free to photograph this, or if it is a confidential one, you have just started a project, you have come to a conference to tell them that you have started a project, you don't want everybody to know about it, you say that, don't photograph it, don't put it on Twitter, or you can also request them to share it. Please share on Twitter. What does every YouTube start and end with? Please share, like and comment. Isn't it or not? Press a button. That takes away about a few minutes. You don't have to go to that end. Just put it. Please share if you like it. If you think that some of your colleagues might be interested in this paper or the poster, kindly tweet it or share it with them. Share it with your group. So you indicate your shareability. Free to share, not share, don't tweet, tweet please, things like that. Those are becoming the D norm nowadays in posters. We are seeing them increasingly. Otherwise, people will be asking, can I tweet about this? Can I take a photograph? Yeah, sure, take a photograph. Can I take a photograph with you? If you tell them, no selfies. Especially attractive females, people go and I want to take selfies. Oh, you put it up. It's happening. Now, before I go, some take-home messages for you is, think about typography, think about design, think about layouts. These are underrated skills for doctors. Most of the times, we are also science communicators. These are very important. So, take-home messages, keep them in mind, learn about it. There are plenty of resources available and use it. And then nowadays, we are moving towards virtual reality, augmented reality. There are many things. You put up a QR code, you scan it on your mobile phone, you can see 3D models. Okay, those are coming. They are coming very quickly to our venues. Keep it in mind. Be the first to use this. Okay, next poster presentation or next wherever you are going to go, think of using all this and some of the takeaways from my presentation here. Thank you very much.
Explaining in a clear way, it was very clear for all our postgraduates and the faculty how to make an engaging poster. Stepwise you have described very nicely, and a few things like few tips also you have given how to make this style, design and the fonts which we have to use. Thank you sir, thank you so much. Do we have any questions for the speaker?
This poster basically uh, depends on the purpose you have to do. You have shown so many pictures.
Yes, sir.
Some of them may be good for advertisement.
Right.
Some of them are good for scientific presentation. So my question to you is, in a scientific presentation, when you do marking, whether we should give more marks for the scientific content or the way the poster is put.
Thank you, sir. Actually, based on a scientific study, whatever I have quoted, I have given scientific reference for everything that I have put up on my slides. Based on a scientific study, they have found out that young researchers, young people who are just stepping into academia or profession, usually go for poster presentations. The senior doctors consider poster presentation to be beyond their level. So it's usually young people. And when you are young, your audience may also be young, and you might be looking at potential employers or potential collaborators. So again, research has shown that many of the poster encounters, they call it like we have patient encounters when a doctor meets a patient, that encounter. Poster encounters, that means when people walk up to a poster and engage in a conversation with you, more likely to continue into a relationship. And then we are not isolated from the outside world. The outside world is changing. The attention span is coming down. In the age of TikTok, there are now shorts, isn't it, and reels of no more than few seconds. So in this time of attention span, sir, so pure scientific material which is put does not fulfill its primary objective or function of conveying, because people don't come to the poster itself. Only when they come to the poster you can convey. So the gap between that last mile connectivity, bringing the person till the poster, that is missing. Most of the posters people glance. They asked they conducted a lot of surveys. They asked, how many posters have you observed? There were 100 posters. How many posters have you observed? The answer was very, very low. 1, 2, 3 out of 100. The percentage of conversion, they call it. If you show advertisement to 1,000 people, how many people buy that product? That is called conversion. That rate in television, they keep it at 1 to 0.5 to 1%. That is a huge, huge success. In scientific posters, it is even less. Nobody takes posters seriously. That is a fact, sir. So you have to, when Muhammad does not come to the hill, we have to take the hill to the Muhammad. We have to do everything in our power, not to debase it, not to go to the advertisement level. We are not going to go into that place, but make it much more interesting, engaging, so that we pull people to come and engage with us when we are standing next to a poster. Otherwise, most of the time we will be standing, smiling, looking. Nobody comes to the poster. And then when time 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, we go eat something, come back, and again stand at the poster duty. That's what usually happens with us youngsters. And superiors who are already in the mid of the professions don't take us seriously. अच्छा है, पोस्टर अच्छा है, ठीक है. कहाँ से आप? कहाँ से तुम? सर मैं यहाँ से हूँ. ठीक है. कैसा है वो? His colleague would have been working in the same institute. कैसा है? They will ask that question. Tell them, ठीक है sir, इधर कहीं है. Then they'll go away. This is what happens usually. We can see it in our real life. We have experienced it. So we have to do everything to rescue that poster. Otherwise, it is going to be dead if it is going to be fully scientific.